Welcome back to Europe League. It is our second game of the day. It is G2 versus Heroic, and there's a lot to talk about for these two teams, because for G2 yesterday specifically, they did pull through as a team, but it was mainly relying on some very solo performances.
Yeah, I mean, they picked up 3 points, but that was pretty much completely on the back on Alamau and Virtue on the defense side. They played an incredible individual siege. I do think that the team stepped up as well and helped them to do so. But, you know, when you hit those sort of shots and you just keep hitting headshot after headshot after headshot, I think Carl's headshot rate yesterday, what was it, 86% fresh?
Yeah, something like that.
It's insane. They need to pull through with like the full product now, though. They need to go as 5. They need to show that all 5 players can fire on all cylinders. The individual part in G2, that's just, we know that they can do that, but that wins you games, not tournaments, and they all 5 need to step up and win everything together.
One thing that I will say about G2 very quickly is just that they're over that hurdle of BDS. I think Doki spoke about it in the interview. Who was the one they feared the most? It was BDS. They didn't really want to play against them. They've got over it. They've got 3 points. That means every other opponent in their group from here on out should be playing sailing.
Has to be really important. And also for Uno, you know, he's playing against his old team. That definitely has to be, you know, personal matters in that regards as well, I will say. But his old team, Heroic, that he used to play for, they are currently last in the group of death, as we discussed. Group B, very stacked, but they're currently last. And you said fresh, the main thing they need to improve on is probably their mid-rounds, especially on attacks.
I think so. We saw them going up against basic utility yesterday, shields, keeper barriers, basic things, clearing ADSs, getting rid of shields, and they really struggled. And I think we've got to put it down to needing a reaction today, the same as ITB. Yesterday we can write it off as long as a reaction comes today for Heroic. We saw that Mr. Officer actually tweeted a video saying that it was a little bit personal as well. Kayak used to be on G2, Benji used to be on Heroic, Uno used to be on Heroic. So, you know, these teams are a little bit intertwined, but Heroic will know that this is tough opposition again today. They are in the group of death, but they will want to give a better account of themselves than they did yesterday.
And I'll be honest, I don't think it's very hard to do better than they did yesterday, because it looked like by M&M they were completely bullied in their attacks. They just stopped, and when they actually got the foothold inside of the building, that foothold never led to anything because the mid-round calling just wasn't there. Players need to take the individual responsibility to see when there's an object or a hurdle in front of you, you need to call what you need from your teammates and what you need to help to just get past that. And it seemed to be lacking because they got stuck in doorways, just stood there, got peeked, died, and then the round was over. So the rounds where they actually got into the building, they still didn't get to do anything.
Now for Heroic, a big question mark is around their banning strategy, because they showed quite a few maps in the Rumble finals. In regards of the map that we're going to play today, any expectations?
Well, I think they might try and get themselves onto an easier map today. I think if you look at Skyscraper yesterday, it's a big, I would consider it a technical map, you know, alongside a bank. Maybe, I know Theme Pack's gone, but in that kind of ilk where you've got to do a lot, you've got to deal with utility. I would want to see Heroic either go to one of the new maps or to try and get to a map that is a little bit easier to attack on. I think when you're having those issues, you've only got 24 hours to sort them out. The easiest win you can do, if you've got issues attacking big technical maps, is to not play them. Get yourself onto a better map.
I think for G2, because they have these issues a little bit that they don't like Chalet and they didn't like Border, at least when I was there. And then they get 2 new maps instead of 2 maps they actually like. We're now looking at 4 kind of unknowns. And talking about that, one of the unknowns gets picked. Consulate, we have no idea how good either team is on this map. What we do know is Border is gone by G2 and so is Chalet, which I said yesterday, BDS kind of messed up their ban phase. But Consulate, I am excited.
These 2 map pools of the 2 teams are quite polarizing in terms of the best maps for G2 tends to be the lower maps for Heroic and the opposite way around. So by that logic, if we don't know the preference for the 2 new maps on these 2 teams, they were the only maps that could have really been left unless one of the teams took a massive risk. So I'm not surprised. This was the game when I did my prep today, I thought we've got the best chance of seeing a new map today. I thought it'd be Nighthaven, but you know, Consulate it is. Very happy to see it.
I mean, I think Heroic did really good with their bans. You look at the maps that they got rid of. Those are all G2 maps, and G2 kind of had to ban the ones that they don't like themselves.
Yeah.
So in my mind, Heroic kind of wins the ban phase in that sense.
But we don't know.
We have no idea. They could choose between Nighthaven Labs and Consulate. It's Consulate today. I hope I see Nighthaven Labs next time. That
is the real question, right? There's so many question marks about this game simply because we haven't seen this map yet in Europe League. Is there anything we can know for certain? Any predictions?
What we're hearing from teams from scrims and practices, very defender-sided. I think teams are struggling to attack it. Lots of tight enclosed spaces, corridors, rooms. Shotguns are going to be very prevalent, but a 6-0 half isn't beyond question from what we're hearing.
I just think the G2 will pull through. I think that if they shape up what they've struggled with yesterday, they're going to have all 5 players show up, and then they're going to win these attacks because G2 is a really good attacking team. They're much more solid now with Romalu, and their defenses have been told as well. So I think that G2 is going to take this 7-3, 7-2.
Okay, we will see. I am so excited that we do have our new map now on show for our second day of EUL. It is G2, it is Heroic on our new map Consulate. It is also still Fluke and Hap, so you two can take it away.
Yes, it is. Those are the horns of new. They're the new horns. We got Consulate, baby.
We do have Consulate.
This is
and it's been completely changed.
Yeah, this is the test of doing our homework, I suppose.
Going to be seeing all the different rooms, the different kinds of things that have shaped up. And for me, the map kind of feels like Emerald Plains to some extent. That might be a stretch for some, but there's so many more new rooms and like little corners for players to hide in, and like I struggle playing it because I'm so used to the old Consulate. I'm like, oh wait, that's a corner now that someone can hide. Oh, that's also a corner someone can hide in. So.
Yeah,
it's gonna be good to see the pros.
I think that's it. Is we get to see the pros. We get to have a taste of how this map tastes, because although there is still core structures, although there is still core ideas, it's so different around those core ideas. You have garage with a white van, kind of. The white van's now elsewhere. It's outside. You've got a couple of cars. You've still got a pillar swing, but now you've got a boiler side to take care of. The run to the opposite end and. I mean, let me see, let me learn, let me steal things for my ranked games, because, not everybody gets the chance to have, obviously, the proper view at how teams approach these things.
No, for sure. It's definitely going to be different here. And looking at the bands, still pretty default. We're going to have the Solace, though. And I think that might actually be really good for the defense here, with the amount of, little areas where they can get those drones in, just being able to take those down. It's going to be very helpful. So, as we get started?
Yeah, we start Cafe Garage. We start in what is obviously the sort of ground site here. Now, if you're familiar with old Consulate, it was a staple, but the biggest change is the immediacy towards the garage wall itself.
Yeah, so we're going to be seeing how this kind of priority game will be playing out. Of course, change there is there's no more 3 garage walls to hold off to. It's only going to be 2 now. The big white van finally left to do his deliveries. No longer going to be parked inside as well. Used to be a nice little hiding spot for your utility. Maestro cameras right behind as well, so you could zap out those legs without them really being able to do anything about it. That is one of the big changes out there, of course. And as well as the yellow stairs, if you look at it, the railings are no longer there. So it's going to be a bit more difficult now to try and support your team, or, well, even more importantly, quickly swing from the yellow stairs to try and take care of the utility that's on the wall to keep it shut.
Yep, that's the sort of trade. That run there that you'll see is often cited as being called Boiler. So if you're calling someone on Boiler Door, that is where it is. It leads on to the bottom of what was yellow stairs, but it also allows teams to get in a little bit. Remember, it was just a straight swing on the door. This emergency entrance down towards electric is often cited, and there it is. You'll see it covered, and they're angling towards archives. Now, that has some similarities to how it was before, but obviously this extra bit of wiggle room as Benja tries to lead them in. Doki, in the meantime, gets the opener as Uno peers through archives towards the back end of the site, with Leader getting Doki back round on the opposite end. They want to batter across. You still have the long construction hallway you see at the bottom, but there, that fun archive stairs now heads up and away on the opposite angle. So a player playing in kitchen has a little bit more to work with. We have garage wall open. We have the both bakes either side. It's a little bit of a hop with how those are popped in. But here's Blaz at the bottom of Spiral, as you may have once remembered it here. But again, slight change. A little bit of a corridor before the lead in onto the swing on the fight.
The shield now pushing through, trying to clear some ground. Was it the back? There was the back we just saw from the Monty there. Blast is a good opportunity to actually shut it down, as he's going on a bit of a hunt right here, looking to find the Monty and shut it down. But first of all, checking if there's any other players around him. As leader goes down by Alamo, Benja will also find a kill. Suddenly it's only up to the 2 of them.
Well, how do they try and pull this one back? There's even worse situation. Blaz stuck around the security side. Does get the kill onto Pipes, but now he's angling towards the Monty inside kitchen. We heard the pop of a shot there. And they're angling around. They want the fight. They know exactly where the player is. They want to put the pressure on. Oh, somehow gets the kill onto Alamau, and G2, they're throwing themselves in. The shotgun secondary cannot get it. Uno. It was a little bit of a moment there.
Uno had to run to save his teammate there, because then if that super shorty connected yet once again, that would have been just problematic, because now you're in a 1v1 with a Monty, having to unextend your shield. Yeah, that wasn't going to be working out for them. So glad he just ran in there to try and save his teammate's life.
I mean, I don't know how he got the kill as he was swinging into kitchen. That was, you know, a blink and you sort of missed it. But instead, hey, where are we going? Towards the top floor, the opposite side of this that was once upon a time CEO. There is still a bit of that sort of CEO hold on the far end, you can see on the B, but that little hop-in window, if you remember, once upon a time there was a cubby on that corner. That has become its own room, its own sort of play space, and the stair set has once again been reversed on the back end of that. You have a lot more here in what was meeting is still a meeting room. There's a cubby lead into a balcony that is no longer 2 windows on a hop-in, if you remember that. Yeah. And now you just have a little bit extra. There's always a box, always a room before you hit the entrance. And then here on the far side, admin has its break swing, has its copy, its office. It's got the sort of office structures a little bit more structured rather than just a run.
Scaled down on the cubicles though, so they've definitely fired some staff. That's
And the archive stairs, they're still there. Though the admin stairs even, they're still there. But they have a little bit of space on the side of them now.
It's definitely more spacious, but also more rooms that you have to clear out. You like some oversight pushing through now, but we'll see how that plays out for G2 as they're approaching on the attack again. The Blitz has been pulled out by Alamau. Mixed success yesterday in their game, so gonna see how that one plays out in the end. It's just the information is being gathered, drones being pre-placed, making sure that they have everything they need for when the push needs to happen.
So straight into the bathroom, it's just going to get rid of that goo mine and put a bit of a statement there. It seems like the wall at the top of the yellow stairs is still soft, so they can try and crack their way through that if they want, but they are holding on. There's only a couple of walls that separate Leader from a potential firefight, but he's just keeping a keen eye on anyone that might try and swing up as an approach underneath. You can see G2, they're sort of trying to put pressure on, thread the needle. Alamau, he wants to go through this window. It leads you straight on towards the top of Spiral. There's a little bit of a vending machine to offer you some support and cover, but it's still a very dangerous close hot property to hop into.
Finds himself on the top of Spiral now, and there is some safe ground to play here. He definitely has some angles to work with here, and seems to be challenging Blast soon, so instead went downstairs. Not going to be holding off to that, at least not for now. It's going to be checking if there's anybody downstairs on the first floor, and actually might find himself a player out there, as Doki now jumps into the top of Spiral to see if he can retake that fight with Blast.
Heroic, they're waiting for the fight to come into them. They know that the pressure on the new map is on the attackers to drive it, and Astro has the read on the player on the swing. There's at least the reveal of the Prisma. He's there, or not the Prisma, even the Gemini, and there's the actual operator. And there is obviously the player, the E1D. There's a Blitz right behind you. They're going to drop to the pistol and spray through the soft, but they're able to somehow get it. Astro swings and drops Alamau, screams up the service stairs. There's a player just behind him he's not aware of, but now that'll feed Uno's location towards the tucked warden of Blaz behind the shield. They're about to have a Doki on one side and a bit of pressure on the left as well. If they're not known of being in that place, that could be a big blow to Doki, who wants to just have a route round. But again, Heroic, they're just standing stoic. Another swing, 20 seconds, look through the blind, goes for the fight against the Iana on the back end. Doom is the cover against Doki, top Spiral, and they just hold them off.
I mean, that top floor is just so tough to get into, because no matter where you are, there's like 2 or 3 doorways you have to worry about at any given time that you might be swung from. And that's like from one direction you're coming into, right? So it's like no matter what you do, there's always going to be like 4 angles that you need to be worried about. So maybe a full admin take would have worked a little bit better there, try and clear it out from east to west, not having to worry about people coming in from multiple directions. I think the Spiral, you really expose yourself to any given direction that's out there on that top floor, and doesn't really help you. So very unlucky there if you go for Alamau, trying to support Benja there, start firing with his pistol, gets 180'd, and loses his
I
life
mean,
basically
rough.
instantly afterwards. It's a great shot, by the way, to happen out there. It was just rough for Alamau, who just wanted to help his teammate out.
So here, as we have more great demonstrations of the free cam, this is Exposition Room, or Expo for short, or called as Museum by some teams, that looks across towards Piano. Now, obviously, this has had a major facelift. This site, you have no more of those windows along the piano wall. You have a little hop-in box on the back end just there that's obviously watched by the footholds. Think of that like the small cubby or closet. Onto the back end, the main entrance here of what was once the lobby. It still has the big single door, or a double door even, that leads onto another double door. You have a little bit more you can play against, and then the brick wall that's just been locked off here. Kayak has a bit of the stretch as the castle towards the Visa side. That still has some of its control down that long corridor. But with Uno getting the first kill onto Kayak, they just swung and shot down to the right-hand side, I believe. Saw the fact that it was castled off from the side of lounge and lobby and just went, well, I'm free to do this.
Just went in and instantly exerted himself out of the building again. Didn't want to stick for too long. Benja clearing 1F though from the corridor. Was previously Tellers, just moving through, looking to find himself closer towards the bomb site, sweeping anybody that might be around on that first floor, gaining some ground, more importantly, for G2 that they can actually work with. But the verticality is what Heroic is currently banking on. Having many of these holes, being able to watch some of the jump-ins, being able to watch some of the plant spots as well, is really keeping G2 on their toes. Or you see, you know, he's very concerned about all those vertical angles out there, and he doesn't really want to move away from them. That's a beautiful one.
Perfect. Astro removed from the board, from the range. Benja just had that angle to get himself popped towards it. And again, you know, if you see openings in the roof like that, there's just a chance that someone might be playing them. You don't need the straight read on it. You just take an opportunity, and opportunity has led to a little bit more success. Leader rotates underneath here as another grenade is about to find... Oh, not quite exploding at the right distance there. Blaz on a bit of safety.
Also, the player moving out at the moment that the grenade was being loosened there, so I think that would have worked out, but plan's already happening. It is going to be in a very tight corner out there, and as Alamau does find Doom, the plan has gone down. 45 seconds will be counting down, and they need to go for a retake now, and they're looking vertically to see where they have planted, but it seems like they've missed it as Leader gets taken down as well.
Rotten timing there for Leader. Started the sprint to get a shifty on, but already removed. Blaz, he's still above, but now he's just watching for holes, trying to find where the holes in his defense were pulled apart. Obviously, they had man disadvantage. A very scrappy fight that Doki wins out, and a flawless response from G2 as we trade rounds back and forth.
It's not going to be the 6-0 defense half that we could have just as well seen coming that was quoted by Fresh. G2 found 2 on the attack already, but of course we haven't really seen this yet, like really play out in a big enough sample size to truly tell what it's going to be like. Does this mean that G2 are finding themselves in a really good spot already, finding 2 rounds on the attack? Or is it going to be more balanced than we might have thought at the start of today's playday? Of course, those questions we'll answer throughout the night, as Heroic, of course, at some point will be going over to the attack themselves as well.
You would assume so.
I mean, it's almost impossible
It's usually
not
how
to,
it goes. It's
unless they somehow forfeit the game before they get to attack themselves.
Well, we hope that doesn't happen. We here
sure it
in
won't
the team, in the studio team, hope that doesn't happen. I mean, it's been a good lead-in, and apologies if things with any new Siege map or any change Siege map are a little bit tricky to follow at times, because things are happening all over the shop, and we're doing our best alongside our observer to make sure that there is some clarity, but it's the same for the players inside the game. As I said, you can scrim these maps, you can test them and run them, you can see what people develop on that sort of behind closed doors, but there's a difference between a behind closed doors play and you're bringing it in. So far, a bit of a trade back and forth. We've had a G2 that couldn't even get themselves up the top of the stairs towards the top site, and here, I mean, they almost threw it. Came down to a pretty heroic attempt on a heroic clutch. Will they have a bit of a change of face? There's obviously no Monty. There's obviously no shield to sort of be that first front line of pressure. Take the brunt of all that attention.
This also allows you to shepherd, right? Like you can just waltz through and make sure all of that is clear.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about anybody being in your backs anymore. Just move in like that. And they don't have that now, so that means that the drone game will be a bit more important, just as well as these E1Ds, chasing players that are running away from these drones at that same time, and Doki's looking to collapse on that as well at the same time with Alamau.
Uno finds Doom just inside lobby, but does he know about Astro just behind him? No, he doesn't. Astro swings around from the side of Expo, able to take a head off, and this is Fenrir. If you're unaware of Fenrir, you have the ability to activate and deactivate those mines from range. You've got 3 codes to play with. If one of your devices gets destroyed with a code in, you lose that code. You can juggle and you can see if people are walking into them from any distance. The kit has to be recollected. Oh, and there's Doki recollecting the trade. Now, in the game that we had yesterday from G2, they obviously were able to win it out, but it was a huge performance from Alamau and Virtue that were the driving force. Benja and Doki weren't quite up to their usual we're killing absolutely everything roster, and part of that was because they didn't need to be. So I'm curious to see if they start to lead into this game a little bit more.
Drones coming through, they have that 1-man advantage. Benja is taking a bit of a fight as leader. He's making his position known near the yellow stairs there, quickly tossing out those smoke canisters, making sure he's not being followed up upon by any of the information just gathered by those drones. And G2 still with a minute left on the clock, plenty of time to try and make something happen.
There's another pulse of the 1D as Doki's able to find Blaz a 4 versus 2, leading just Kayak and Leader left. Now they have a little bit of utility between the pair of them, but when the hatches are starting to fall, when that vertical has been pulled away from you, you find it trickier to get yourself locked in. Moving slowly through Boiler, back down towards the site itself. Kayak does get one, but unfortunately Leader does not get his way back into the site. Kayak, he's holding on here. As the plant goes down on the back end, it is revealed. Cannot win the fight out onto Virtue, though. That is G2. 2 for 2 down on the garage site, but you assume next up is CEO, where they couldn't even really get anything close to the floor.
G2, they have really prepared for this map. You can see in everything they do, like the movement is just so fluid. They're just able to get themselves in the right position at the right time and all working together as well. So I assume there's been very, very, very many scrim hours into this map from G2, just making sure that it is as good as their other maps are as well. And of course,
with the timeout.
They do, yes. I mean, losing 3 attack rounds on something that the desk said before could be 6 defense rounds in a row, won twice. I mean, starts to wonder at that point. So you're going to have a little bit of a chat, like what exactly is going wrong? How is G2 countering it?
I mean, it's always the sort of split of a game. It's the split on any new map. You will look at how it gets built because, you know, we highlight this as a new map. And obviously there were opinions about the sort of, I almost call it a remaster.
It sort of is.
It's a sort of remaster. It's a fresh
like a
coat of
reboot.
paint. But it is very much a different feeling map. You have to remember, Consulate was that sort of dangerous, narrow rectangle. If you took the camera out above and went all the way out to the top, you could get the entire map in a single shot. And now it's just twice as wide. It's very boxy and very boxy inside. Look at the sort of shoebox layout of what you've got to clear. That area was just pretty much one room with a soft wall down the middle before.
And there was a lot of cubicles that you had to pay attention to, but as soon as you've droned it out, like a drone in the right place, you could see most of it already. I like how there's paper coming out of the copy, by the way. It's a little fun little thing you can see.
Oh.
On the,
it's always fun in an office.
Spewing out paper. But
wow. Fun fact.
Just had to mention that fun fact.
What's
yes,
that's faulty.
The true hero of the show.
That's
They haven't fixed that in between.
Faulty machine. But can I get the free packs for reporting that as a bug?
Don't know if it's a bug. Maybe in the printing manufacturer.
I think the printer's obviously bugged. Benja! Well, I said they had a problem getting themselves in with some pace before, and it seems they might have a solution with a quick zip, ready to rock and roll. They're just going to pop open the top. They've got the sense to try and roll and offer some cover. They might be going for something smart, short, and snappy. Snort is not really
the
what
acronym for it. So.
Yeah. Virtue wants to pop here. The gridlocks can make a lot of noise. They double hop over. They're inside the site itself looking for the fight, but it's Doki to win out the first, and there's Benja on the back end. They have absolutely blindsided the hole. Blast does get Benja, but looking through the lights, trying to see if he can find anyone that's going for the plant. Now, that cubby on the far end on the top is often used as a plant spot, as a plant location. You just get yourself in towards the top corner with CEO, and you might have a place to play, but Astro is the stop here. looking towards the shield, looking towards Alamau, who's just a little bit at bay before they go for the follow-up. They're in, and they're holding. They don't want to lose this man advantage.
The thing is, Uno is out on the balcony as well with that diffuser. He didn't hop in initially out there, so we had those 2 kills come through. Benja being traded out. He was still out here waiting patiently, not trying to go through with the initial plan of going for that push. He feels it's safe now, going in for the repellent, instantly needs to move and go for that plant, and his carrot gets taken down.
Underneath.
Maybe a 4-on-2, but underneath, indeed, his blaster gets taken down, but Uno still alive, can rotate for a new spot to try and plant into.
Oh, lost the fight to Doki, went hunting for the Solus. I mean, it's a lot of soft. You can sort of play against those sort of little nipped plants. As I said, it's often done tucked into the side of CEO, where you have that little bit of hard working for you, but that works as well. If you've got the sort of clarity over meeting, if you've got yourself into cubby, you might be able to get in. The impact moved Uno, the impact of the player picked up and moved as well. Obviously, the change for the roster, bringing in or re-bringing in the sort of old head and the old voice for exactly that job. Remember, that is the role that he's feeling, is that late round call of this is what we're going to do there. I mean, it's sort of the ice cold finish hands that you need for an ice cold finish.
Love that one. Of course, a very experienced player, like tons of accommodations to him as well, and everybody knows what he's capable of and showing it off now as well. As well yesterday, really. G2 finding themselves 4 rounds against the only single one that Heroic have been able to put on board so far. With one more round before that side swap comes. Never truly going to see whether or not this is just G2 being very good in the attack and being able to do it on the defense as well, or if it might be an attack side of map today.
Maybe G2 are just a first half team.
Well, that's it, yeah. They did it against BDS as well.
Yesterday it was, 5-1, 6-1, to 6-5. So...
That's my biggest critique of yesterday.
Yeah, G2
they could have closed a lot earlier.
They're not out of the woods just yet, but, you know, it's a lot of promise on a first map, and you do have defense always working in your favor, usually, on a new map into a rotation, but... Blackbeard, a lot of operator sort of roulette here almost. Just seeing a lot of different picks, a lot of different ideas coming through from the approach from G2.
It's also, of course, based on what they've seen so far from Heroic, knowing what could work against it. As June taking a small amount of damage out there, I believe, walking past the Blackbeard as well, as you saw the shots going off from the Mark 18. He's really stuck out here between like 3 G2 players. Has to run through. Takes again a little bit of damage, trying to rotate all the way through towards the little A window. Could be hoping to go for a jump out. Hero gets pre-fired. A double kill. Benja with a grenade and Virtue with one as well. It's really putting up G2 well for the last 2 minutes of this round.
I mean, from what was one of the slow rounds that they lost before, they've been so good at every other attempt at finding a route in. Look at that. Doki watching and waiting for Blaz to pop around the corner, and it leaves the 2 new pickups for the Heroic roster, Astro and Leader, to see if they can try and push this round back into their favor. Now, they had a pretty good day yesterday, regardless of the loss. These 2 got themselves in, but the big ask right now to try and carry the rest of this. A minute 20, lots of time here for G2. Where are they going to see if they feel comfortable enough to go for a stick with Astro still above? Oh, ducked around the corner. Leader gets the first of G2 players down.
It's going to be information, though, for G2, knowing where at least one of these 2 players is located. They can now try and circle around him, see if they can work on the back of that. As a jumping comes through, Astro might have heard something. He's waiting on the doorway, looking to see it, and I don't think G2 is aware of the fact that he's above that hatch, holding tight as he finds Uno. Now they definitely do know. Gets a second, though, for his troubles. Doki taken down, who find ourselves in a 2-on-2 situation again, with 40 seconds left on the clock. G2 now trying to figure out which player they're going for first before trying to reattempt to take.
Oh, Virtue dropped the camera, dropped Leader, and now with 30 seconds, a 2 versus 1. There is the possibility Astro can pull this round, but he's just been revealed as well. Takes the fight, though. Astro is happy for it. One more for Astro!
Almost single-handedly saves the round there for Heroic. 4 kills. As it was a 2-on-5 situation, they can be happy with that one. Of course, not how the round played out, but at least with how they managed to still secure it in the end. That gives them a bit of an extra lifeline. 4-2, 2 rounds of a buffer now, and them heading over to the attack, we get to see the true taste of this map. There's G2 over towards the defense. Again, quota by Fabian and Jack. Could be 6 rounds on the defense. Now, we definitely didn't see that.
Maybe Fabian and Jack just don't know how to attack this map because they play in the stack together a lot. So
It might just be the stack problem. That's true.
maybe you guys just listen. I don't want to, you know,
Point fingers.
I don't want to point fingers here, guys. But apparently, you know. All right. I mean, a huge round from Astro there. As I said, when it was those two left in the 2 versus 5, they had good games yesterday. They are great players that just, you know, have needed to find a place to sort of settle and set themselves down and say, this is the roster that we can put behind. And you have a performance like that and you go, all right, this is maybe the start of something here for this heroic team. But still an uphill, and we get a taste of what is a top floor hold. It's going to be their first pick rather than down in the basement, as we saw heroic prefer.
Yeah, I get it though, because if you just look at it, it's so cluttered, so many rooms, there's so many hiding possibilities, crossfires, angles you can set up, which just really make it awkward for the attack to try and do anything. Whereas in the basement, as you saw, like, you move in with a shield and there's little to nothing you can do out there. You just get shepherded out. As they have brought that shield, we'll see how it works on that top floor instead. It's being made. It's going to be opening a wide hole out there. That's it's going to be difficult and dangerous to get back into that balcony now for the heroic players, but they can use it as a bit of a long angle and then a bit of pressure point.
There is still obviously the cubby that offers you some protection, but if someone's paying attention, it can be dangerous. There's a quick smash. Just sucked into the top of yellow, and well, they're making sure that nobody's either side, trying to get a quick ping. The Monty, again, for a map that you're still sort of learning and trying to wrest control, it just gives you the sort of safety of saying, I'm going to put the pressure onto this and see what they're doing, because you don't really know. This is dangerous, though. He has to take that smoke damage. If he'd have gone any further, he would have just been caught and closed down on by the opponents. He knew what the trade was there. He moves himself further away. It's a great bit of play there by Alamau, but there he is, finally able to get that grenade. It puts him to, well, I was going to say less than, I was going to say half, but now he's all gone. Leader does stop at least the run of Uno. Benja almost gets caught out. This grenade just towards the soft wall. Spray behind it, won't quite get anything though.
Good call coming out from Virtue, getting that double kill there. Uno was looking to support him, watching the skylight there. We've seen it yesterday, didn't work. This time, Uno fell in that battle, but still, the man advantage is there for G2. There's a minute left on the clock. This grenade might actually change that, though, as it finds Benja, brings it back to a 3-on-3. Still that minute to work with here. Heroic, they need to group up now, make a decision, and try and stick with it.
Oh, that's always the risk. The 3 versus 3, you still have some utility to be played against you, although that smoke canister does just get thrown out and turn into a bit of a gun swing here, and you're against some very talented guns either side, and without the Monty, you don't have that safety precaution talked about before. Doom delicately wanting this fight on the swing. The smokes are going to come through, and Alaman's actually going to move off as Virtue gets Astro. There's the fight swung right round. Doom wins out. A quick break against it. Leader's looking to try and get the kit down as Virtue gets clipped by Doom, who's really started to roll across this attack. It's a 1 versus 1 for Doki, though. And it came down to the wire, but it's not the first round, too.
Well played there by Doki in the end. We just saw clutch coming down from Astro. We see it followed up by Doki in a 1v2. And that means they're now on to 5. One more round before they start taking points home. And Heroic, already having had their timeout, of course. Not that that round necessarily means they need to take one, but that does mean they need to play it through in the end. Or hope for G2 to pull a timeout themselves if things do start to go wrong. So they need to make sure that it connects next time around. They need to just double swing it at the same time if they know where he is, because they gave him 2 1v1s now. Let it be in short succession. Just enough time for Doki to reset and get back to the second person who was red pinged.
We fall down. Towards it.
Information blockers.
Love to see them. They're a relatively new addition to the game. If you're unaware of what they do, well, if you're a drone, unfortunately, you would not be able to see through that. It's a direct line. Now you just shoot out the middle, or however you wish to remove it. Can also be stolen by a Brava, which is essentially on the board. But otherwise, it just blocks any camera being able to get that truest glimpse through it from the attackers for now. What are you going to get here, Doki? Oh, a little bit.
Something of the wall a bit more to make sure there's pressure out there if they do decide to head up there. Astro surviving with his life, you can say, because Doki, he heard them coming. He was falling back at the moment that Astro was coming around the corner, so just a bit of unfortunate timing or unfortunate circumstances there. Otherwise, that kill could have been theirs, but would have also gone the other way around. Quick breach though, onto the objective directly. Will give them a bit of a line of sight on it, but the top floor again being held steadily. The verticality is so important for this site and will definitely be held by G2 for as long as they can.
Now, Gumons used to be able to be captured by a Bravo. The recent change to them means that they no longer can be. If you saw Dream sort of shoot at that and then remember and realize, they have been adapted. They have had a buff. Elysian's in a pretty good spot right now. More damage, quicker for it to be dealt as well. They try and get themselves some control over the top here. They see, obviously, Benja a little bit loose down on the bottom of Spiral, just getting himself mobile and moving over towards the opposite end of the map. Kayak's getting some coverage. You can't entirely just throw yourself into the piano, into the expo site without at least getting some idea of what's going on. Now, remember how Heroic did this, and they ended up actually losing a couple of players, and then G2 found a pocket of space. It seems like Heroic are looking for the same thing. They've just tucked their toes inside and underneath and hoping they can shepherd the players out. There's Leader making the motion, covered the smoke and going for the plant just inside that little hopped cubby around the closet, as it's called on the far end. It's a post-plant situation. Just on the line of that closet and towards the expo side of the site museum. They're going for the C4s. Too little, too late at this point. Whoa, that's a hell of a take. Benja gets one, but there's a drop right back round. Doom tucked on the corner. Swings up towards Virtue. It's a scrappy fight, but it's his to win out as Blaz gets one of his own. And now, once again, this site with a bit of focus on the sort of verticality, forcing those players to get out the way, has allowed both attacking teams to just do this, sneak a plant on this situation.
But even at a little hole out there. Now, June does get taken down. A lot of damage done to Uno right in return of it. There's no time, however, so round is going to be headed towards Heroic. And as I said, yes, the top floor control is very important. You need to have these kind of angles to work with. You cannot afford to put all 5 players on there. You need to have 1 or 2 trying to challenge you horizontally, because otherwise what just happened will happen. They'll just walk in, find that one spot where you do not have proper coverage, and the plane goes down. It starts ticking down, and there's nothing you can do about it, because retaking suddenly becomes very hard. Now we head towards the basement.
Now we do. Fall all the way down towards, as we said, as with all the sites, I think that's the thing about this map rework, is it feels and plays very different because of how Consulate used to be. Consulate was very unique in how it handled, and some people loved it, some people hated it. That's why it got pulled away and reworked. And I think people have similar love and hate relationships to this one, but I think it's a little bit more middle of the road.
It used to be a very, very window-heavy map, right?
Oh, it was so distinct in how it was played.
4 out of 5 people were repelling on windows for 2 minutes in a round, unless it was a basement attack. And now it's you actually get into the building. you can actually fight inside.
You have to be inside to kill people. It's crazy.
Yeah, big change compared to previously.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing is, if I think the identity of this map is very different. And here's the rush. Heroic, they're going for a quick break across the top. Now there is Doki maybe trying to get a read here, but there's the hatch and there's the drop inside the hatch. Virtue gets caught out, and they're going to see if they can try and find another as Leader goes for the plant itself. Blaz suffers a bit and gets dropped out. There's the kick cold though, a 3 versus 3. The retake, I think that might have been from above. The swing around the top leaves just Doom inside the site. The pulse is feeding all of this, and now there is just Doki left. There is one player that's on a sort of even ground to the fight here, and it's Astro. He suffers through the spray, but look, you just can't get the last bite of it. They've pulled all the way out, but they've used this time to recollect the diffuser and move it into the other site. They're going to go for the plant on the back end, and Doki goes for the drop. Pre-fires an angle. They're off the plant. They're looking for the angle in the fight, and there it is. Doki, he's retaken the retake onto the site itself. 2 minutes, though, on the clock. All the time in the world for Heroic to try and get this 2 versus 1 into their favor. They start to use that time to break over the top of the map. Doki knows where the kit is. They know Doki's no longer in that side of the site, so instead set up for the rotation, see where the pulse has got to.
Still has a nitro cell in pocket though, could be used as he finds the first drone. Just looking to outplay them now. He needs to outsmart them. There comes the C4. That finds a player as well. And suddenly we find ourselves in a 1v1 situation again. Astro versus Doki. Both have managed to put clutches on the board, and one of them is going to be taking another round for their teams. But there's 90 seconds on that clock. The diffuser has been dropped, and the mirror window is in favor of Astro. Can actually use that to stop Doki from pushing down that hallway if he gives it a little check.
Oh, he's got the diffuser. He's going to see if he can try and get the stick. Doki went for the long rotate all the way around on the back. He's looking for the player. They're tucked around, and he's chosen to swing towards the side of the mirror window. There he is, punched it out. They know exactly where he is now. Puts a hole on the side. He's going to see if he can spot the player. Just sees the tail end of them, and instead gets turned around. Almost massive from Doki there, but Astro, who's had equally massive rounds, is a formidable force to stop.
Definitely is an heroic. Managed to make the rush work in the end. Initially shut down from above, from the hatch. They dropped through themselves, but still managed to clutch it out. 1v3, just a little bit too much for Doki there. Himself in a 1v1 in the end, but having to fall for that diffuser, of course. Like, you cannot stay on there. They'll expect you to be there. He needed to move. Did he move a bit too far away? Did he forget to maybe punch the mirror window first so we didn't have to worry about that and let that give him away? Maybe, don't know. But again, well recovered by Astro there, and a massive attempt from Doki to try and bring that back their way.
I mean, the retake of the retake, you know? What else do you want? Especially as before that sort of happened, it was obviously a huge take to stop the planter going down. It was Bender over the top, then Astro appears behind and gets the kill, and suddenly Doki's all that's left. He had a fire into Astro, and that situation, it might haunt him a little to be like, I could have maybe won that, but the fact that he didn't was maybe the reason he went underneath. Siege is a game of that, and I think if anyone at this level doesn't pull off the greatest play you've ever seen, they're usually a bit disappointed, so I'm sure he'll get past it. Looked for another quick pick up into the lead here, but not quite handed to him.
Not quite yet, so they're going to have to try and see if they can go for a different approach. Jim already in sight, though. So Stairs is looking to quickly gain themselves with some control and maybe catch someone off guard through the headshot there. Definitely letting himself be known. Oh, that grenade could actually catch someone as well.
Uh-oh.
Will they?
Oh, no. That was onto, I believe, the checkered bit, which is not destructible. They're able to keep themselves sort of standing, pull themselves back round. Obviously heroic. Slower and steadier approach here onto this side.
Glass. Just chilling. Opening the wall very soon together with Leader. Finding themselves a way into the side, and this time there will be someone onto the balcony. I said it before, it's going to be very difficult to retake that once it opens up, because it gives the opportunity for them to just swing. And you saw the opportunity being taken there by Doki as he was looking through the window, hoping to find someone out on that balcony.
Smoke canister stops the immediate run into Cubby. There's another one. They're just sort of baying and baiting for this time. The flashes and the swing comes across the back end. Kayak is now inside, and Doki says, get back outside. It's a pretty clean and easy takeaway. He seems to be quite happy moving around this admin. Moving around and just making things a little bit more complicated for anyone that is trying to get in, because it's a more awkward boxy space. As we said, if you're going in, you don't just have that sight line down towards, you know, the wall of the site anymore. Everything is more claustrophobic. Office has a little bit of wiggle room. Copy has a little bit of wiggle room. Break is like 3 times the size.
Definitely active below. Trying to find some people with their grenades. Not successful as of yet, heroic. Of course, there are men down, so they're trying some things to bring that back to even. Because especially if you're attacking this top floor, there's so many angles you need to cover. If you're then also in a disadvantage, it's not going to be helping you out. Uno, very close to someone out there. Not quite sure if that's friendly or foe. She was close as well, so it's definitely going to be an opponent that they're facing off against. Seems to be Joom.
Yep, and he's about to pop around the corner. Uno, I mean, he's in a very do-or-die risky situation, but 20 seconds, this is when those mistakes start to happen. When they're punished, they are punished. Huge virtue. Wants to swing on the pre-fire. Uno pops up, but the player's on his right. It's a trade out. On the back end, a grenade and a swing round. Alamau gets the shotgun locked onto leader. There's a fight over the top. Doom pushes Uno out over 3 versus nobody, though. And G2 push themselves onto map point.
Time was ticking down. Heroic needed to make something happen out there. And as I said, like, you start moving in, but there's too many angles to cover. And G2 just able to find most of those gunfights to go their way. With that, 2 opportunities to lock this out. And it seems like Piano and Exposition is going to be where they try to do it. At least at the first attempt. As it has been locked in now, no more changes to come for that. And now they need to lock it out quicker than they did yesterday. Because yesterday they needed 5 rounds to lock it out. Today they only have 2.
I mean, they couldn't be more stressed than they were yesterday. Let's be honest. They maybe the fact that they only have 2 means that they're not going to sort of go from what was...
Play around a bit more, yeah.
Yeah, go from what was 6-1. As I said yesterday as well, obviously a lot of the pace was driven by Alamau and Virtue had outstanding games. And again, you know, they were 6-1 up. It's not because the others were sort of having poor games. They just weren't needed to be as explosive at the time. Now you look at the game. You look at Doki is obviously flying. But generally all the team... pulling positive KDs. At the same time, you know, similar sort of story on the other side. Although Astro and Leader generally had good games yesterday, you've got Doom showing up a bit more. You've got Blaz showing up a bit more. You've got both teams having a little bit more of an even hand today on the second play day.
And that consistency. Love that shot, by the way, for the rappel. Truly cinematic experience that we get. But you need everybody to show up. You cannot keep on relying on a single player, and that's why I say, like, when a player clutches like a 1v3, a 1v4, like, great, you got the round, but you shouldn't have, right? So it's like, you cannot really be happy with a clutch. You can be at the moment, but as a team, you failed at that point. You put one player into that position, and they managed to clutch it out. So you always want to, like, win comfortably, or as a team, like, everybody pulling their weight, rather than just one person carrying you through it. Because that means that if one person has a bit of an off day, the rest can basically carry that difference, take it up on their shoulders, and you still function as well as you would otherwise.
So there's the destruction. They just want to make sure that they can swing this without being blinded. And here's the back swing. Gets 1. Oh, gets 2. Blaz moves huge behind it. Astro takes a lot of damage in the pick back up. They're desperately looking to see if they can try and get some revenge there, G2, but it goes for now at least slightly unpunished, though with how active everyone's being. There it is, Virtue! Into the bathroom, gets 2 right back and retakes the territory, hops out to safety. Because otherwise that window is under a huge bit of pressure. Kayak is there. You see the Brava going to offer some support. And I mean, at that point, he has sort of saved a big blow this round. But June was able to get some big bits on the swings of this last time as well. They have the pings on roughly where a player was, but the bathroom's gone. Virtue's gone as well. Dropped the hatch, entirely gone for a new rotate. They've got some control of the bathroom. Doki's got himself tucked in behind as well. The window's not offering anything, unfortunately, a step too late to stop Kayak, who's now using that Usher, using the Talon shields to try and drive them a bit closer.
Of course, the side is a floor down, so even if they do take this full top floor under control, you still need to descend a single floor and try and take the control there as well. So now some of that verticality is being used by Heroic. They will find Virtue on the back of that, as they did have the information out there, leaving only 2 players left for G2. Doki now falling back a floor below, or at least thinking about it, going back up the spiral stairs as well, as, you know, everything is being tossed at them right now from the side of Heroic, who seem to be approaching the bomb side as Uno drops as well.
Well, there's a player down on the side of Doki, the 1 versus 2, but he has to just take the drop, and he somehow gets 1, but no! Oh, almost found an unreal play. Really shouldn't have been able to survive the first hatch drop. It's a very well-made piano.
I had my hands in my hair there. That almost went G2's way. It what should not have happened at that point. He drops, he finds a 1 person just starting with the plant and the other behind a piano. It was a bit clumsy, but almost worked out. Now the timeout from G2. 1 more round before we head to OT. They are looking to close this off. They just want those 6 points. Nothing more, nothing less. And if that's a second 7-5, so be it. They won't care as long as they get those 3 points.
I mean, the 3 points is the precious thing. You highlight this as a group of death. You highlight this as the danger thing. And also, obviously, depending on the position, is where you end up you know, sort of going against in the playoffs, people from the other group. Generally, the games here are the tougher games to a lot of these teams, to a lot of the sort of perspective of the analysts as well. And, you know, the further along you sort of get, the less opponents you have to play from your own group. Again, it's the tastier test of metal. 6-5, G2. They want to make sure that they secure the 3 points, especially, obviously, you know, as I said at the start of the day, you've got the two teams with success, the two teams from both groups that won yesterday, playing again today. And Wild suffered on their end, so Group A, or whichever, is going to be a little bit more sort of scattered, but this could still be a divide of two teams with 6 points if G2 win this round.
They have the opportunity, they have the luxury to do so. I've shown they can do it. Although we've seen quite a bunch of like clutch or near clutch situations come through. So, of course, G2, they want to take that a bit more, well, calm and collected and more confident as well, not having to rely on Doki to try and go for a big play again. But we get going. 3 minutes. It's between G2 and picking up 3 points, or between Heroic and finding themselves in overtime with a point on the board, which they were not able to pick up against M&M. Yes.
Blaz wants the lead in here onto Boiler, and Alamal for a second looks like he wanted to step in to see him, but it's a bit of an awkward corridor, even with the shotguns getting themselves into a very dangerous sweet spot right now.
He was afraid of a second grenade as well. It's like just one bounce, you don't want to step in right after.
There's always a fear. Yeah. Thievery is occurring. As Bravo's able to get a bit of control. The damage over the top there. Blaz wanted to see if they could try and stop anyone that might be triggering it out, but the impact response is quite there.
Just a single opening, so it's nothing too big. Probably waiting for a second breach attempt to be made so you can get more value, because that's not walkable. You cannot really go through that, so they don't really care.
It sounded like it was two explosives very close together, so I'm assuming the impact happened around the same time as a grenade. So they did impact at least one of them off, but they'll be able to get the read on where the second fight is going to come from. Obviously, it seems like Heroic has entirely picked up and gone for an alternate approach. They've swung themselves around. They're again getting this sort of angle down towards the back of the ground floor, looking towards Archives, looking towards Electric, and maybe a push down construction itself, which Doki and Benja are trying to step up to read. They've left Leader, who's now been joined by Blaz, inside Boiler. Tucked around the corner. It's just fishing for a route through at this point.
Alamar has moved himself, so he's no longer playing close there with the shotgun anymore, and you see a lot of verticalities being done right now, just breach charges being put. The opening on the wall will be there as well, which is now walkable, vaultable. Benja takes a single point of damage, I believe that was from opening up the floor right above them. Somehow escapes with his life, and Joom just starts opening up with a super shorty again, which was that one little point of damage that Benja took in the first place.
Well, there's the break on the wall, not quite clean enough on the right-hand side, and that's very frustrating for a team that wants to try and slink in, because now you only really have one route through. Astro is looking for a fishing fight here, but no bodies have been handed to them. Doom is doing the exact same thing as the smoke cover comes. Blaz pushes into one side, and Leader goes for the tuck just past the smoke. He's safe. And that's a bit of a blow there, as they're not quite sure. The C4 goes to the other side of it. Azuno gets Kayak a post-plant, though, with Blaz finally finding a kill from above, but they can still try and push out, whether some of the G2 players go for a rotate and a bit of a retake here up Spiral. It seems like there's a bit of motion and movement with two players going for the take and the pressure here. Leader is holding on inside. There's Astro watching and waiting for this approach. That is two players that are trying to kill Astro, regardless of what the outlines show you. The first is gone. The second is gone too. As Virtue does find Leader inside the site, but with the vertical away from them, it is so tricky now for Uno to try and get in and get any semblance of control. They're watching from three different angles, two of them above and one from the back of Boiler. We are going to overtime.
Yeah, there was no winning there. Almost after that diffuser one down, there's like a little opportunity for the retake there. C4s get tossed, smokes get tossed, and none of them were able to connect with the actual planter. Bit of lack of information, probably due to the fact that the entire flooring above got opened up. They didn't really have division. They couldn't really see where that push was exactly coming from on the G2 side of things. Now they need to continue on the defense in that overtime to see if they can find 2 rounds out of the next 3 to pick up the extra point that's available, because both have 1 now. Again, we don't have to say it, but in the group that they are, BDS, of course Heroic, Wolves, G2, M&M, every point will count. If you just look at the teams and see it, how many of these teams have been at majors, at 6 invitationals, you know that the quality is definitely up there, like all the way on the top. So you need every point you can get.
We get scrappy results in the opening 2 days, 2 overtimes across the 2. Sort of split, or not even. It's that sort of steady bit of growth where we might even get one that goes all the distance, all the way. Obviously, we did get the overtime before, and it got itself into the 6-8 situation. Are we going to see a 7-8? Are we going to see that first full test? A full fat rounds of Siege.
The full 15, all the way.
All the way.
All the way.
Will we go?
That's a default cam. 3 people, and no one thought of shooting it. That's what we call a shame.
Yeah, that's definitely in the biz known as a shame.
And they're being caught in 4K as well at the same time, you know? It's a great first shot coming out from Doki in the back of that camera, the rep ping being used, and now they take it out. It's a bit too late. You could have actually saved Astro there.
Yeah, I mean, you're this late in. Obviously, it's a technical new map, but shooting your outsides, shooting your defaults is one of those things that when the pressure is this high, because obviously Heroic have no points coming into this, now they've guaranteed themselves at least 1. If they get 2, then they're only 2 points behind G2. They're only a scrappy win behind a team that was otherwise at the top of the board and just as desperate for SI points as anybody is in this situation. Uno removes that. As we said, the drone blocker, the observation blocker, is in play, so he can sort of play there with a little bit more safety than he otherwise might be able to. But with the motion starting to be pressed here against Doki on the back end, they're just going to maybe pull a shoulder further back as admin falls and break gets opened up.
So the utility used though to get break opened up, but as I said before, like the spiral approach, I don't think that's very beneficial. You kind of have to go from admin towards that site because you limit the opportunities of players being in your back at that time, going for flank routes, because there's only a limited amount of staircases from that direction. Doom's grenade, not going to be able to find anything out there. A lot of damage done onto Doki, but still alive, kicking and well. As the RC Reterrors are starting to come through, looking for some utility worthy enough of its detonation.
Now, this site has been a tricky handle to keep yourself on, but as Doom is inside the core, he's somehow able to get Alamo.
He gets
great shot onto Doki with the second, and I mean, that's the one you watch in slow-mo, and even then it feels a million miles an hour. Brilliant play. But with 30 seconds left, a 4 versus 3 versus 3, Leader's going to see if he can try and get this stuck on the back end. Kayak gets Uno, gets them removed. You've got Virtue trying to sneak his way in. Benja's looking over the top. The plant is just on his shoulder. There's the first fight against the sledge. The second pops up against him. All down to Virtue. Wins out inside the corridor. 40 seconds to find the final player. They know roughly where they were. They've gone on a bit walkabout, though, and Leader locks it in for Heroic. 1 round away from taking 2 points.
Very close round there in the end, though. Virtue almost able to clutch that one out. Just a bullet or 2 more is what he needed. Heroic just a little bit quicker and able to get that diffuser down. But again, Doom's play there. I think he unscoped, got shot at by Doki, and it's a bit of a response as a reflex. He dragged his mouse over and fired 1 or 2 more bullets and managed to actually take him out that way. He was, of course, very low. If we can get that one in slow-mo, I'm pretty sure that was just a response automatically to whatever shot was coming through. That was not a conscious response at all. That was the subconscious taking over.
The follow on the back of this as well, obviously the first fight is you sort of got this lead on the prediction, pops around.
Shot at. Unscoped one tap. As I said, it's just an subconscious response. He sees shots instantly. His brain is like, okay, we take that one down.
But, I mean, obviously, when you're unscoped and firing, even from that range, there's elements of luck that goes into it. There's elements
some
of...
RNG.
There's some RNG, there's some siege.
He's moving as well, just changing stance. It doesn't help you.
It no, the exact opposite. But unless you're a Doki or a G2 fan, it's always one of those moments that is something to see.
It's definitely something to see. It was a great play. Going through there from Drew.
One more swing here onto the top, and as I said, I want to see if we get the full 15 rounds. We had our first OT in the game just before, but that obviously fell one short. Here, G2 have the chance to try and put the pressure onto the attack from what has been well-traded even hands. The 4-2 opening into the 4-2 secondary setup. Both teams have been able to make the other bleed on attack and defense. It was however many rounds ago, the opening, or the first round, not the opener either, the second round, the first one that Heroic were able to win on their defense.
Blast been spotted out. Instantly rotates out, but there's a player on the window there. Virtue fails to actually get him. Flashbang goes up, but the glasses, they stay on. Blast not really receiving any pressure there. Carrick knows someone about on the... Oh, that's the most unfortunate timing. Blast taking damage as well. This is just so chaotic for Heroic right now. Two players just locked in place.
Well, you said it was a window game, and G2's living up to that. They get the kill onto Blaz via the window on the back end. They obviously had him watching on the admin side, and then they had the diffuser carrying Uno watching on the printer side itself. The admin player has been removed. Benj is in, and underneath, he's eyeing up the drop on the hatch first, making sure that nobody makes the motion. He'll probably want to loose some grenades at the roof as soon as he can, as Doki's just feeding and filtering some of that intel. Alamau also wishes to sort of shoulder shimmy and shake his way in a bit closer. As I said, those grenades will start to be pin pulled. Currently not on the back of anybody currently, but just moves around. That'll be the call. Someone's below us. Gotta keep yourself a little bit. Yeah.
Not able to find anything on the back of it, but at least some vertical angles they can use now. You know, moving in with the Arceroteros, will be getting some information, but also taking down shields, more importantly, make the life of Alamau just a little bit easier once he finally does decide to waltz in. Seems like that time is closing in on us as he's, giving some quick shoulder peeks, probably just waiting for his team to get in position before that call gets made. They have that 1 minute advantage. They do not want to throw it away on 6-7 against them.
40 seconds, 9 players still standing, the longest and most we've had at this sort of point. The pings come round, Doki gets leader, the blitz goes on one side and Doki gets one more. Astro, he's able to find a fight, doesn't quite get stopped by that. Another impact and another impact stops the play, but it's only him left and he's forced all the way back into the Carbia CEO. We are going all 15.
This round, the single round will decide who takes the extra point. It's G2 on the defense, and it hasn't been favored today. Most rounds are 1 on the attack. They need to pull one more off if they want to be on top of their groups. Of course, still could be leapfrogged by M&M, who found 3 points as well, or having a rematch against Wolves later on. But it's all or nothing now for both these teams. Rather, all or 1 point.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
7-7. And after G2 playing yesterday and M&M dispatching of Heroic, some might have expected this to be an easier game for G2, especially with how the first half developed. And then you start thinking back about the clutch that happened, and you're like, that didn't go through. We might have already been done at this point with a full 3-pointer.
7 apiece. Best of 1. It's the best of 101.
Best of 1 and the best of 1.
Best of 101. And I think one of the good things is every player has really put their name on. I mean, Doki sitting 19-9, huge, almost clutching out 2 massive rounds. But then you look at Virtue as well, 16-9. The fact that G2 have sort of kept themselves battling and fighting in against a team where, multiple people as well on Heroic's team are in double digits. It's really been a tooth and nail game. And no one has wanted to let the other get a single step further.
Bit of a dangerous, sneaky attempt from June there, as there were some shots coming through from the defenders. Quickly repelled up there, tried to return fire, but no one on the other side of that wall to be caught off by those shots out of the L85. Breach instantly destroyed. I'm not sure if that was on purpose, or if that was an impact grenade used. Doesn't seem to be the case,
No.
so it must have been destroyed by the attackers themselves.
They didn't want it to be a run-out option.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be an angle that they could sort of shoot through, so it's something where they can put pressure with it, but they know that they can still safely repel without having to keep an eye on it and be something that has to be watched. It's just a way of getting that locked down here. Heroic. Once again, they're going for some control, but Doki gets himself into 20 kills, gets himself further and further into this game, and removes Astro as well, almost his rival in those end game clutch situations from a couple of rounds past. Kayak takes a scrape of damage here. They need to make sure, Heroic, that they isolate and get this next kill onto their favor. They're, just missing the tip of the cap of Doki. He tucks himself a bit further back, pings for the player that's sort of twinned with him on Soda. On the opposite end of the long corridor, Leader's going to rotate his way back round. They don't want to risk it. Uno and Doki still, as I said, have themselves in the back end. That little position he's in, but Doki gets another. And another for Doki. 22 kills on the board. He's angling and tearing. There's at least one more, but a flawless to end. And a huge, huge game from the Flying Scotsman.
We gotta tell Heroic they played this incredibly well as well. They were able to bring back rounds where they're massively behind. But Doki a bit too strong, especially in that last round. Able to pick up a 4K in that round. 23 to end it. Virtue on 17 as well. Those two truly are, what kept G2 in it for this game. The other side, Blaz, Astro, Doom, all on double digits as well. As you mentioned, a 2-0 game. Both will at least take 8 point home.
Well, I'm very curious to know what our boffins on the desk think of that as our first showing here in EUL for the new consulate. So we'll throw it to a quick break before we're back with them.
Blast R6 Major in Copenhagen. Are we ready, Copenhagen? 24 teams from all around the world made the trip here to Denmark.
Okamesh is straight on inside. He finds one, looking for a second. Okamesh is just eating him up for lunch. Gomez, as he plays behind one of the remaining Kiva barricades, to be a big nitro out here, and it's massive.
Trying to get ahead of it, spots it moving down the stairs, and there it goes for VP. 1-3 go for VP!
Everything falls to Sploit, down in the 1v2 here. They're both focused on him. No matter!
We are now down to our Elite 8.
Surely not resets! He's making the 1v4 look so winnable! There's no way! Resets to ace to 1v4! Esk is trapped in a corner.
Finesse can collect one, a second, a third.
Oh, he's just insane.
Something feels a little bit different today. It's Championship Sunday! 24 teams made the trip, 2 remain.
The defense, there comes 1 kill and 2.
It looks like there's one left standing. It's Vods against his old team. It could not be any more bittersweet.
Are they going to be able to close this out here and now?
It took a full overtime and Doki to drop a 23 bomb, but G2 do take the victory over Heroic. They managed to pull it through in the end in what seemed a pretty attacker-favorite map.
It was crazily attacker favorite, especially what we were expecting when Fresh says it can be 6-0, and that's what I've heard too from the teams. To then see that there was, 2 on each half, and then G2 only managing to snag the last one in overtime. That was not what we expected.
Yeah, like I say, we can only report what the teams are telling us, and they're telling us it's so defender-sided in scrims. Both teams came out with a different plan on how to attack this map. Both plans worked. The fact that we got to OT 4-2 for each team on their attack half showed that. I think G2 was playing very much for overwhelm. We see G2 kind of invent this, split theory meta of trying to find the gap that they did at Six Invitational. And we saw Heroic sit into their classic style of looking to plant. It doesn't matter whether Uno's there or not. Leader stepped up and did that for that team. Both teams showed a good way to attack Consulate today. And it was only when we got to OT that G2 kind of realized if we get in the face of Heroic, we can basically outfrag them, stop them from setting up, like Eminem did yesterday, and just about got the job done in that very final defense round.
You pretty much cut that entire thing, so I don't have to say much.
Cool.
Except
Sounds
that
good.
one thing I want to add is that G2 actually played much more like a team today, even though we see Doki dropping 21 frags and Virtue dropping 15. Great numbers, and I'm really happy for Jake that he's managing to push these numbers, because he's never been the one expected to do so, but he's always been capable to. I think that Jake has the best aim in this team, even if Doki can drop 21 and 8. So they all took that extra step up, added a few more frags to their numbers. So it's more of a team effort today than it was yesterday.
So you're saying both teams play Consulate completely different, but then for Consulate, it's a map that's been reintroduced in the map pool. Has anything stayed the same? I mean, I'm missing my trusted admin take, but is there lots of changes or anything that stayed the same?
We saw an admin take happen in that very last round, and Doki just shut it straight down with some aggression. I think the staircases are still going to be important. I think teams will, for the most part, still base around yellow stairs wherever they can, but it doesn't look too different from old Consulate.
It doesn't look too similar either.
Sorry, yeah. It looks very different from old Consulate. Yes.
You can't sit outside on 4 windows waiting anymore. I mean, G2 did a little bit of that when we looked at top floor attacks and they picked them apart, but they literally flushed all of Heroic away and just took all the space and overwhelmed them so they didn't stand a chance.
And then for Tekalari, how much did that play a part?
I think it's going to play a massive part in this map. We saw Heroic, when they was on the defense, try to play the Solace from above and below. Pulse was played a lot by both teams as well. And even on the attacks, I think the default when you're not trying to rush or trying to play fast will be to play the full clears. We saw multiple lineups that had Sledge and Buck and Breaching charges in. And I think obviously, teams are looking to try and defend vertically above and below site, and teams are trying to attack it the same way. So I think verticality is going to be huge important on Consulate.
I do also think that the map isn't fully figured out yet. If we look at the defenses from G2's side, for example, Heroic were allowed to rush quite heavily and find these gaps that went just straight into bomb site. They just open a hatch, drop down into the basement, for example. Those small things, that will never happen to G2 again, by the way. That will never happen, because there's going to be some sort of utility, be it a Fenrir trap or be it a barbed wire, just something is going to be there to stop it. So there are things that will always be there still to be ironed out. So there's more innovation to be seen. This is just the start of it. And honestly, G2 so far, with their 2 playdays that we've seen this week, have been the most entertaining team to watch, because 2 really close games. And this one was honestly amazing.
But then there's a really difficult question. G2 are current world champions. Can they afford to lose rounds against Heroic, bring it to overtime? Or is that going to come to bite them in the back with this strong of a group?
I think if you look, take a step back and look at this group, and this is me thinking how the teams will think. They will think that Heroic is the weakest team in this group. So if you're going to drop points to anyone, you don't want it to be against the perceived weakest team in this group. G2 have won. Don't get me wrong. They've won. They've got the 2 points, but they will potentially be going away thinking it should have been a full 3 points. And that could be the difference between first or second or third, which could make a big difference down the line.
They should have realized what sort of playstyle they needed to bring out in their defenses much earlier than they did. They did for the absolute last rounds in overtime, it looked like, where they were actually challenging everywhere. Like, I mean, Doki just peaked and peaked and peaked and hit those headshots, because that's the player he is. That's the power of G2. They should have figured that out a little bit earlier. I think after 3-4 rounds, they maybe should have said, maybe let's scrap these turtles and go, well, it's not turtles, but it's more passive gameplay. Scrap that, go more aggressive, use that fragging potential that we have, because we see players go up and down in the scoreboard. And I mean, Doki, what did it up yesterday? 4 frags, 3 frags, something like that. They have all that capability. So just change it up a little bit faster.
All right, we do have our winners on the line, so we do get to ask them a few questions about how this game went for them. And I do believe that we currently have Alamau with us. Hello, how are you doing?
Hello guys. How good, and you?
Good, I'm doing good too. Why Consulate today? It is the new map that is added to the map pool. Why Consulate?
I mean, I think we practiced a lot Consulate, and I think we were feeling really comfortable in scrims, and we didn't imagine that Roik was good on the map. So, and honestly, I don't think they are. I think like they won so many rounds just by I don't know, like that rush they did on basement was just terrible, and we lost that round. I don't know, but I think it was the right decision to play Consulate. I liked the match, and we should have won like 3 points for sure.
Okay, but then you said with Heroic and the rushes, did you expect them to play the way they did today?
Kind of, but also like not this type of rushes. Like this was just so bad. Like this was like play for like year 2 of the game, and it only worked because Jake was doing like the whole to impact the breach that I forgot to do. So if Jake had his gun in the hand, he would just kill like 5 guys dropping the hedge. It was like just terrible play. And me and Bruno was all around the hedge as well. Like I don't know how it worked.
Okay. All right. Well, for you personally, Consulate, if you talk about like the 9 map pool, whereabouts is it in regards of your own personal preference? Is it like at the top or at the bottom?
I think Consulate is a good map on the pool. I just I don't like that they removed like Theme Park. I think Theme Park was a map teams were starting to learn how to play, and it was like not like the old boring method that people used to play Theme Park like 2 years ago. And they just removed Theme Park, and they have like the same boring maps like Clubhouse, Chalet, like Border, these terrible maps. And they removed Theme Park, which was a great one. So I'm just mad because of that.
Okay, understandable. We do know that you were the main voice in the team, specifically in stage 1. Now, with Uno joining a team who was an IGL on his previous team, has that changed much? Because I have seen you talk a lot in rounds and after rounds as well.
It changed a little bit. I spoke about this on my stream yesterday. I told that since we won a SI with Byron, I always said that even to the team or to G2 that I needed someone else to call with me because I think it was too much on my shoulders. Like even on a SI, like, and there's some moments like I'm not in the place to call like a plant or like a execute, and I can't see. So sometimes I try to call, and Fabian can agree with that. Like I was not seeing what was going on, and I was trying to call, and just like it doesn't work. You know, you need a support player who can actually call and communicate this late round, so you can actually like know what's going on. And I think Uno came for doing that, and he's doing like really good. Even yesterday, like the last round against BDS, like he won off the plant, like he said he could plant, and we just won the round because of him. You know, and I think that characteristic is what this team was missing. You know.
That was really tense indeed, but it sounds like it's a really good fit for your team. Anything you want to say to the fans? Maybe some like buy the G2 signature skin?
Definitely buy all the G2 skins, guys, available, because you know that we need more money, and we always love the love and support that you guys do for us. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for the support.
All right, cool. Sounds good. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great rest of your evening, and we hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, see you. Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye. All right, that sounded pretty good, actually. It sounded confident and a good addition with Uno as well.
Yeah, I mean, they brought on Uno the exact same reason as I brought him to the team when I was a player, because that's what we wanted from him then. And then I think that after me and Pengu kind of left that roster back in the days, they didn't utilize him the same way, and things just didn't work out. And now they bring him back for exactly the same reason. And I mean, you see the difference in the team. They look a lot more confident in the officials with Uno than they did with both Gemini G8 and what they looked like with Blur before. So it's a massive step up, and I'm happy for them that it's working out. And it's just really entertaining Siege to watch because they have all the play styles available to them.
One more question I have right now is G2 said that BDS was their biggest hurdle. And Alamau has also said, we went to overtime, which is something we really shouldn't have. G2 said BDS was their biggest enemy, but isn't it really maybe that G2 is their own biggest enemy at this point?
I think with G2, a lot of their own limiting factors has always been themselves. If they apply themselves to 100% that that these players have got in them, they're the current world champions for a reason. So that that's the thing for them is it doesn't really matter. As long as they turn up, they will win. As long as they keep winning, they'll go to majors and 6 invitations.
Honestly, all they need to win, and this is what I know from personal experience, they need to be there mentally. If they're there mentally, we have Carl that's smiling and he's happy. Instead of looking at like a ghost, like he did in Gamers 8 and Copenhagen, he has confidence in his team. He calls a lot more. Same with Doke, he needs to have some confidence in himself, which sometimes dips out, sometimes it dips in. He can be a bit nervous. These players, literally, they are the 5 best players that you can find. There's nobody who you would swap out for another. When you have that, you have the theory behind it. They just need to have their mindset straight, and they'll win everything they want to.
All right, we've had 2 overtimes already so far today, so looking to see if we get an overtime for our 3rd game as well, which is coming up very, very shortly. Furnace Pro, who had an off day yesterday, will be taking on Secret, who started stage 2 on a very good foot. So we'll see you right back after this break.